During the first year of COVID, I couldn't open my hands. Not metaphorically, but physically. There were days so bad that if I straightened my fingers, the skin would split and bleed. I'm talking about eczema. They were swollen and cracked, and the most disheartening part about all of that was that I was one of the healthiest people I knew. Why was this happening all of a sudden? And the irony of it all, we were in a global pandemic and everyone was obsessively washing their hands, and I didn't want to have to wash mine for the 50th time in a row that day. I remember going to the grocery store and everyone telling you had to put hand sanitizer on, and I just was like, no, please. And so I started wearing gloves to the grocery store instead. I'm sure you can imagine the struggle was real. But the thing that made me cry wasn't the physical pain. On paper, I knew I was one of the healthiest people I knew, and I felt like my body was betraying me, and that was the real issue. This episode is not fruit cures eczema, but it's about what happened when my body was screaming and I stopped and I actually listened to it. My name is Story with 2 R's, and you are listening to The Human OS, the place where we upgrade your internal operating system. Now, if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, I'll be putting photos of what my hands looked like on the screen, but fair warning, it's not pretty, so if you're squeamish, you might want to skip forward just a little bit. My eczema flare-ups started before COVID. There were tiny little bumps around one of my nail beds or knuckles, and that would come and go, and honestly, wasn't really problematic, like not in a way that I was concerned about it. But during the first year of the pandemic, it became unmanageable. First, it took over one of my ring fingers. Then it spread across 2 fingers, then 3 fingers, then fingers on both of my hands. And finally, it started spreading down the palms of my hands too. My hands were so swollen and cracked and inflamed that I couldn't do the dishes. I couldn't type some days. I couldn't even open my hands, like past this kind of cupped point, or my skin would rip and bleed. And it was excruciating and debilitating and frustrating. And I remember sitting in the dermatologist's office being like, there's no way all you're going to tell me to do is put steroid cream on my hands because you don't know the root cause of eczema. Like my grandfather and my aunt had eczema, and so they said it was likely genetic, and that basically I just had to manage it. There was no known cause or cure. I would just literally have to use corticosteroid cream for the rest of my life. Now, topical steroid cream reduces inflammation by suppressing parts of your immune response, and that's why they work. But long-term use, especially over years, it can thin the skin, reduce collagen production, and weaken the skin barrier. In some cases, heavy use over many years can even affect your internal organs and adrenal regulation. And that scared me. So I just kept asking, why? I didn't want to manage this for life. I didn't want to use that cream for the rest of my life. So I tried everything to find the root cause. First, I went the clinical route, all types of specialists and dermatologists, but I was coming up with really nothing. Then I went to see a naturopath, and that can add up financially, but I figured, you know what, this is my health. I'm going to give it a try. This naturopath was incredible in many ways, but he gave me protocol after protocol. And then we finally decided that I should try an elimination diet after about a year of all these protocols not working. Basically, I had to introduce one ingredient at a time for about a week before adding another. So basically, you start with 1 ingredient meals, no spices or oils or anything, and then build from there. So it took me nearly a year and a half to reintroduce foods to see if I could find the culprit. Sometimes my hands would improve. But unfortunately, it always came back for what seemed sometimes like no reason at all. And even sometimes with a friggin' vengeance. And I was like, how is it even worse now? Like, how did the eczema get even worse? It felt like chasing smoke. And I was exhausted. I hadn't eaten out in so long, and when I did, it wasn't worth it. So not only was it difficult physically, it was mentally draining and socially isolating. Anyways, after years of trying everything, I remembered my friend in Jamaica. He's not a clinically trained doctor, but he's a healer, a raw vegan who self-studied and was obsessed with diet and alternative health. He was committed to understanding the body and using food as medicine. I've personally seen him help people reverse conditions clinical doctors had said were permanent. So, several years before all of this eczema nonsense, how I met him and why I believed in his abilities, he had inspired me to try the raw vegan diet. And I had done it for nearly a year before I was too cold in the Canadian winters to continue, and I inevitably stopped. But by accident, I had healed a different skin condition I'd previously had that magically never returned, as well as a few other health concerns. So I decided that I'm going to call him and give it whatever he tells me to do a try. So he told me, you know what to do. And I said, do I know what to do? Because I'd done some cleanses with him before. And he put me on an 8-week protocol, which was made up of almost entirely fruit. Not almost, but you'll understand in a second. So lots of berries, lots of grapes. And by the way, berries and grapes are apparently the best fruits for this kind of cleanse. I was allowed limited amounts of bananas and dried fruit, but no fatty fruits like avocado or coconut, and no other food, not even veggie-type fruits like tomatoes or cucumbers, for example. Only fresh, raw fruit with no fat. No oils, no spices, no supplements. If I needed a break, I could eat certain vegetables on weekends, but still no fat and no spices. And so it was barely a break, to be honest. Apparently, fat slows detox pathways and inflammatory response. I couldn't work out as well. I just needed to rest. And to be very clear, this wasn't a lifestyle. This was a deep cleanse, a reset, and I went all in. Now, other than life sucking, because social gatherings always surround food or drinks, another difficult part was getting enough calories in, because fruit is mostly made up of water and they're nutrient dense, and so you get full really fast. So I had to use a calorie counter. I know you usually use a tool like that for weight loss, right? But I was using it to make sure of the opposite, that I wasn't losing weight. I aimed for 1,600 to 1,800 calories a day. And by midnight, I always found myself with another 400 to 500 calories left to eat that I just didn't want to finish, and I'd have to force the fruit down. By week 3, I was genuinely afraid of grapes. I would open the fridge and I would just stare at them like, ugh. My friend told me that if the cleanse didn't work after the 8 weeks, when I went back to regular food, that we could try again, and he'd send me some herbs from Jamaica to facilitate the blockage. But luckily, I didn't need that. And thank God, because I'm not sure I could have done another 8 more weeks. So within a week of doing the cleanse, my hands cleared completely. But I didn't celebrate because I'd seen temporary improvement before when working with my naturopath, and my friend said just because the symptom disappears doesn't mean the root cause is gone. So I committed to the full 8 weeks as he recommended. And it wasn't glorious. Even with forcing myself to eat 1,600 to 1,800 calories a day, I still lost a lot of weight, and I kind of became a pancake. Like, you're eating mostly water, and honestly, all of my friends and family thought I was insane. It was a testament to the levels of discipline that I have in my spirit, especially because no one but my friend in Jamaica thought it was a good idea or that it would work. Everyone discouraged me and thought it was too extreme. And on top of that, there was no vanity metrics involved. That's for damn sure. Like, I swear, vanity really helps us with getting physically healthier because we can literally see the results and imagine those abs coming in. But I did not feel sexy at all during this cleanse. I'll tell you that. I was losing muscle because I couldn't work out, and my womanly shape was going away, and I felt weak some days. I wanted to quit so many times. When my partner would make a meal and I could smell it all over the house, or when I was invited to a birthday party and I'd come to the party with a fruit smoothie in a large mason jar and a huge container of fresh figs and mangoes to eat. I know that sounds delicious when you do it once or twice, but after it being the seventh week, imagine going to a restaurant with friends and everyone's ordering grilled fish, beautiful salads, pasta, healthy vegetable dishes, and dark chocolate cakes. And you're like, these aren't that bad. Some of it's not that bad, but you're just sitting there with a glass of water and an apple you had stuffed in your pocket, taking bites of fruit while no one at the restaurant is watching. I mean, I have to say, I wasn't going to be putting myself through that torture too often. I'd leave these gatherings clenching my teeth in hunger, and I'd go home to a cold house with a cold, wet meal in a cold, wet country. Beautiful England. It was a lot. Now, the thing about these health conditions is that they're never one thing. My hands weren't the only thing inflamed. I was. COVID fear, career pressure, trauma stored in my nervous system. The day the world shut down from COVID, I was supposed to fly out to the Juno Awards for my first ever nomination. And just for people who are not from Canada, the Junos are like the Canadian Grammys. So yeah, I was sad and stressed and grieving. I told myself I was fine in my mind, but my body clearly disagreed. Our subconscious is so strong. And here's something science backs. Chronic stress elevates cortisol. And cortisol, in and of itself, isn't bad. It's essential. But when it stays elevated for too long, the immune system can become dysregulated. And elevated cortisol over time dysregulates immune response. And immune response dysregulation contributes to inflammatory conditions, including eczema. Your skin is your boundary. When you live in fight or flight for long enough, your body acts like it's under attack. So during those 8 weeks, there was no processed food, no overtraining, no stimulants, less adrenaline, more stillness, and my inflammation dropped, so my body responded. So it's been 3 years and my eczema hasn't returned until a couple weeks ago. Tiny flare-ups on my knuckles, and I'm in a pretty stressful period of my life right now. The correlation is obvious. My body speaks clearly, and stress is inflammatory. It's not magic, it's just biology. Whether the breadth of the impact has been studied yet or not, we know this. When I saw the flare-up, I became disappointed in myself. Honestly, I was fucking pissed at myself because my friend in Jamaica told me that I needed to repeat a shorter version of this cleanse every month to keep my system clear. 5 days a month, just fruit. And I didn't do that. In the past 3 years, I've done maybe 3 or 4 of these 5 to 7 day fruit cleanses, but I knew that wasn't enough. But honestly, not living in a hot country and working quite often, having to travel a lot, I can't imagine doing another 8 weeks right now with the work schedule that I have. So I'm not sure what my next move is at the moment, but luckily summer is steadily approaching, so we'll see. Maybe I'll do a couple weeks of a fruit cleanse soon. All that to say, fruit is not a pharmaceutical, but it is a living food. It's hydration, it's micronutrients, it's antioxidants. It's something that hasn't been engineered or processed. For me, removing inflammatory inputs long enough allowed my body to recalibrate. And meditation has been an added tool that's really helped me regulate my nervous system. And that powerful combination has changed my skin. Our bodies have to do cleanses just like our cars need oil changes after so many kilometers. Because if you change the way that you're eating, even right now, and only eat clean from here on out, it's like pouring clean water through a clogged pipe. It doesn't magically allow the water to go through. You need to clear the buildup for the drain to work. And the cleaner you eat, the less buildup, but inevitably, whether it takes 1 year or 10, we all need a tune-up, right? So that's what the fruit cleanse is. It's a clearing. We're clearing that pipe. Prevention and inflammation management is the real long-term medicine. And that's why I'm sharing this experience. Now, as promised, at the end of every episode, we leave you with one small upgrade you can take home with you. So, if your body is inflamed, ask, what is my nervous system reacting to? Where am I living in stress? Where am I suppressing something? Maybe your answer isn't fruit. Maybe it's boundaries, sleep, less caffeine, therapy, stillness. Your body is not your enemy. It's your messenger. My skin had to split open before I listened. Hopefully yours doesn't. And if this is landing for you, go back and listen to the PTSD episode that I made, because this isn't random. It's the same nervous system story, just showing up in different organs. So if you're curious about the exact 8-week protocol I followed, comment fruit below. And please, do your own research and consult a qualified professional before making major dietary changes. I am not a doctor. I'm just here telling you my lived experience. This is The Human OS. I'm Story with 2 R's, and I'll see you in the next episode.